Hey guys, and welcome to the Invar Technology Podcast, a podcast where we interview top level executives inside leading and growing companies in the manufacturing industry. Excited to have our guest today, Jason Saleh. Today, we'll be driving into his story and a little bit about what the company does. And if you can go ahead, Jason Saleh, and tell us a little bit about yourself and how got into the industry.
Absolutely. So thanks for having me today. So I actually was a software developer for about 21 years before I got into management. And I actually got this job. I was working for a software development company and ended up getting contracted to develop an application for NCMM that I work for now. And the CIO who I was working with on the project, just kind of told me about a management position that he had for IT department. He was starting up. So kind of met him. We went to a lunch and, he picked my brain a little bit and offered the job. And so I've been working at NCMM here for about 4 years now, leading the IT department. First started as a manager, just recently got promoted to director about January, so beginning of this year. So yeah, so far so good. I can't complain.
Beautiful. No, that's perfect.
That was
Thank you
all I
so
had.
much. Wonderful. Thanks, Jason. And I really appreciate, your quick introduction. And I think congrats is in order for the promotion. And I'm sure it's got a lot, to do with the fact that you probably very hardworking. I mean, we had a good conversation prior to this, and so that's very really rewarding after all. So maybe you can tell me and our guest a little bit about like how did you you've given me a little bit of an introduction into like how you got into it, but maybe is this
Mhm.
something that you've always had a bit of a spark of interest in terms of the technology space, or is it just something that kind of just fell through and landed you here today?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, the main reason I think most people get into computer science is we like playing video games when we were kids, right? And I always thought it was really cool and would like to build those video games someday. And I just always liked being on a computer. I'm kind of more of an introvert a little bit, so it worked really well with my personality. And so back in the day, like I said, when I was younger and trying to figure out, oh, it'd be really cool to get into writing video games and learn more about that. And like that's a really tough kind of field to get into. So just decided, computers is kind of where I want to be at, and went to the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown for my computer science degree, my 4 year degree. And like I said, that's been about 24 or 5 years ago now, and just couldn't be happier with the field I chose. In computers, you can go, there's so many different aspects, right? You could do networking, you could do help desk, you could do software development. And I really like doing the software development track because I really enjoy being able to, like I said, I wanted to build computer games. So I thought, maybe it'd be really cool to build computer programs instead. So that's why I decided to choose software development as kind of my track. And, I just really enjoyed it. And when I first started, I was mainly building programs for the company. So not for customers of the company, but for like human resources and finance and, things like that. And it was really nice because I got a chance to learn about how a company in general works, writing programs for different departments inside the organization. So I think that really helped me, kind of where I'm at now, being a manager and transitioning. At first I was a little hesitant to take this job
Yeah, of
because I'm
course.
like, I'm a software developer. I never really managed a department before. Yeah. And, but after, it's funny, after I was in here for about a year, I'm like, man, I'm kind of like, this really feels like the right fit for me. So I think, it really helped out just being able to develop applications for the company instead of for customers. But I'm really happy now where I'm at, to be not be doing software development anymore and kind of moving up that track. So
Oh, great. Thank you so much. I really, I really appreciate that. And I love what you said. I mean, ultimately, as kids, we all love playing video games. I mean, and the video games that I had was very old school, track and field. And I mean, it literally just brought up so many memories right now. Yeah, so thank you for that. But really, really great story, and it's quite inspirational. And
okay,
I
absolutely.
think a lot of us adults can still resonate with playing games and ultimately having that embedded into our daily life is pretty amazing. And at the same time, let's be honest, technology is something that's continuously growing.
Yes, always changing, ever changing.
Absolutely. So, and there's nothing, it's a really evolving evolution. So perfect. Wonderful. So that's going to lead me to my next question for you, Jason. And maybe you can, we've kind of had a lovely introduction into you, and I'm sure we're going to go back and speak a bit more about yourself and your journey within the organization. But let's maybe tap in to the company, and if you could maybe tell me a little bit about what you guys do at National Center for Defense Manufacturing and Machinery. That's a tongue that's a tongue twister.
Yep, that's it's a
Absolutely.
mouthful. It is, right? There's so many companies are just acronyms nowadays, right? So NCMM does stand for the National Center of Defense Manufacturing and Machining. And basically what our company does is, we're really big in the additive manufacturing space. So additive manufacturing, synonymous with 3D printing. So our company we're not manufacturers. We don't actually manufacture or build new parts. But what we do is we're experts in managing projects. And so we mainly work in the government, especially the DoD space. And, we see whatever projects they have available out there in the additive manufacturing space, and we'll take those as the prime contractor. And then we have an American Makes partnership, excuse me, we call it a consortium. And that consortium has over 330 small and medium sized business manufacturers in it, and we utilize that alliance partner to be subcontractors on the project. So if one of the projects requires a part to be made, we bring some of the partners that we work with that do manufacturing, or if it needs finished or anything like that. We have a really good network of ecosystem of partners that we work with to pull in there. So we really are trying mainly to make additive manufacturing be used more so that the government has a bigger supply chain. In the end result, it's to improve the supply chain. And right now, only about 5% of parts actually get manufactured additively. Right, additive, 3D printing is great if you're making a prototype. You couldn't do it faster, quicker, or cheaper. But if you need to scale that and build a
Yes.
part, 1,000 parts, the same part, you got to think of it. You need 1,000 machines, right? You can't build one machine can only make one part at a time, and sometimes it takes quite a while to make those machines. So right now, there's only about 5% of parts that are being manufactured additively, and we're out there trying to make that a much higher percentage. There's a lot of different places where you could think of having a 3D printer would really help. Like, we're doing missions, out in the middle of the sea or on the moon. Where if you have a 3D printer there and a part breaks, you can just print it instead of having to worry about the logistics of how are you getting it to the ship and whatnot. So, 3D printing, we see it is really necessary. And it's going to be really good technology once they figure out how to make sure that the parts get made with the same
Oh,
properties
thank you
each
so
time.
much. I really appreciate that. And I know that we have met, briefly before this, and something I mentioned, and it was the whole avenue of the 3D printing thing, of how it it still amazes me how that even takes place. I mean, that alone is blows my mind. So I won't how 3D printing is used within reason. And I mean, I told you about the story about the whole movie, how I kind of see it envisioned. I've never physically seen it, but I would love to one day. and all that. But tell me a little bit. I mean, within that, what would you say is your unique value to your clients?
Yes, I think what separates us is we are pretty much the premier project management experts when it comes to anything in the additive space. There's a lot of companies that want to get in, that want to be able to be suppliers for the government. But obviously, producing parts for the government is a little bit different than if you're producing them for just standard regular businesses. They're going to have stricter specifications that the part needs to fall within. And then one of the biggest things, obviously, being IT for me, is they have a lot of compliancies that they require the company to meet before they can accept them as a supplier. So one of the big things that we're pushing for right now is there's a new compliancy coming out. It's called CMMC, and all defense industrial based contractors are going to have to comply with this new policy. And it's not something they weren't supposed to be doing before, but prior to this new role, companies only had to self-attest that they were meeting their cybersecurity standards, where now they actually have to get a third party evaluated to actually make sure they are doing these. There's been a lot of leaks of government information, especially in the past couple years, and they're really trying to put their thumb down on that and make sure not as much of their data
Wow.
gets leaked
Well, I
out
mean,
to our
then
competitors.
that,
Yeah, but mainly the project management.
yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say mainly project management. Having the expertise of managing additive type projects is really where our expertise lies, and having the 330 member ecosystem community that we have is really
Great.
one of
Well,
our strongest
again,
advantages.
thank you. And ultimately, with that being said, and this new thing that's come into play within the government and within your area, would you say that would be one of your, or would it be your biggest challenge in to date, or would there be something else that you would say would be the biggest challenge within the company, or even in the industry?
Right. So good question. Truthfully, coming from it from being the director of IT here at the company, I kind of come at it more from a technology standpoint than
Absolutely.
the manufacturing standpoint, or maybe how they can improve 3D printing. So for us, it really is getting those small and medium businesses, making sure that they get this CMMC compliant. We've been working with a lot of them, and there's so many of them that just think this does not apply to them, and they're going to be in for a rude awakening, because when this rule comes out, in order to supply any parts of the government, they have to go through this compliance, and it's pretty expensive from a company standpoint to do it. So we actually see a lot of companies, especially the smaller ones, kind of just throw their hands up and say, we're not going to produce parts for the government. They're just making it too difficult for us. So we're trying to get out there and work with these small and mediums and help them get that compliance, and really kind of demystify it for them, what it all means to walk through this compliance, and help them through their journey, since we just walk through ours. And then the second biggest challenge I think we have is, there's quantum computing is a big topic of, new and emerging technologies that's going to be coming out here in the future. And so once quantum computing comes out, we're really just worried about how that's going to break current encryption protocols, and just making sure that everything that we do as far as encryption is standardized, so that it won't get broken whenever quantum computing comes out. So those are two of the biggest challenges. Also AI is a big thing lately. So that we're kind of more trying to figure out how we can incorporate that in our company. We're not trying to shy away from it or not let our users use it. We want to see how we can use that to be more productive.
Fantastic. And yes, absolutely touching on AI. I mean, that's a massive thing right now within the technical space, and in every single company. I think it's really big thing. So to have that in place, I think is going to benefit your organization, and in any organization today. We shouldn't shy away from it. We should ultimately use it as an advantage to be proactive and productive. And But thank you so much. I know, that you're on more the technical avenue of the company. So I really appreciate you, and you answered that perfectly. So don't even stress too much about that. I mean, um, with that being in mind, I'd like to transition away from some of the challenges and then maybe speak about something more upbeat. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about, how you feel, what are some of the biggest wins in technology that you've had in, let's say, the last 2 to 3 years. And that can be in your like lifestyle in the organization as well.
Sure. Great question again, too. I do like this one. So I would think one of the biggest wins, that I really want to mention is it's very rare that you go into a company that doesn't already have their IT department set
Mhm.
up, right? You're going to go into a company and if they're using Microsoft, you're using Microsoft, and you don't get to specify like what they're using for their email and what they're using for vulnerability management and just, the tools and services that an entire IT department has. So I think one of the biggest wins for me that I really love was when I came into this, they were just starting the IT department. So I actually got to direct exactly what tools we're using and make sure that all the pieces work together really well. So we don't have all these different, systems that don't talk to each other well, and becomes more difficult to manage when it's like that. So we're pretty much a Microsoft shop through and through, and we're utilizing Microsoft 365, GCC tenant, a government tenant. Again, you have to be in there for the compliance part of it. But I'd say one of the biggest wins was really being able to completely set up how the IT department services were going to be for an entire company. That was a really big one for us.
Oh wow, that is absolutely, because I think it's extremely important, especially within your role. And it does sound like you have come in and ultimately given them some good insights and good push within the technical frameworks of your company. So good job. And that is a
I like to say we have it set up very elegantly, right?
very elegantly, yes.
Instead of having on-prem, yeah, it's a very elegant solution that we have set up. So I'm really proud of that, and especially kind of doing it more modern, right? Most people, new companies that would be created nowadays aren't going to have on-prem servers. They're
Absolutely.
going to be using cloud services, and so we are set up like that as a modern company, but also keeping in mind that we have to have those added security features that the government requires us to have too, and making sure the cloud services we use also, have those same flow downs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's so much fraud out there as well, and especially I'm sure within the government space, there's just probably just that extra bit of care. It's just as sensitive as any industry really, but you have these level industries that are maybe a little bit in more need of higher security within their company, and talk about integrations as well. It's makes things more seamlessly effective and allows you to see any potential threats, right? So, so yeah, with
Absolutely.
that mindset and with your experience, what would you say, need, what type of mindset is needed in your opinion to be successful in the role that you're currently in?
Absolutely. So I think this is a really good question because we actually are doing a lot of interviews lately. We've kind
Fantastic.
of been a growing organization here, which is definitely good. But since doing a lot of interviews recently, I kind of really got an idea of what I wanted to ask the interviewees for kind of the same thing. What mindset do you have? And trying to gauge. And I think one of the biggest mindsets that you need to have is you need to truly have a passion for whatever it is you're doing. Because if you're passionate about whatever it is you're doing, you're going to put your all into it, and you're legitimately going to care about the outcome of whatever it is you're doing instead of just getting the paycheck at the end of the day, right? So I think being passionate about what you're doing, and it makes work not work, right? It makes it more of something that you like to do, and that you're not just worried about getting in there at 8 o'clock and getting out when it's time to leave. So I really feel being passionate about what you do is one of the best mindsets you could possibly have for any organization or any role that you're going to take.
I fully agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. I always say to someone, and and now especially because of the fact that you obviously, you guys are doing some interviews, and that's great news, by the way. Good luck with that. But most importantly, is I always say, like, you can have the skill set, but ultimately, when I am looking at any sort of employee to join an organization, I would want to look at the will within that person, because if you've got a will to want to succeed, ultimately your skill sets needs to be at a specific level, obviously, specifically in the IT space. I mean, it's years of experience, and a lot of, not everyone can do it. It's definitely a talent. Um, but yeah, I fully agree with you. I mean, I ultimately love what I do. I mean, I get to meet wonderful people like yourself and other organizations as well. And I mean, yeah, passion is a big one. So, and I can hear from the way that you naturally, engaging with us today, that you've got a lot of passion for the industry. And I mean, like you said, it started at a very young age, something that you've always wanted to do.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
true.
yeah. I mean, some people dream to be like pilots and firemen, and others dream to be tech savvy genius. And I mean, it's the place to be today. So there's nothing wrong with that. Wonderful.
That's true. It really
Yeah,
is. I really do enjoy it. And, I think too, because of the win of being able to set up the entire department, like I do take pride in that as well.
absolutely.
So, pride comes with the passion. If you're the one developing a project, you see it as kind of your baby after you're done with it, right?
Yes, yes, 100%. Yeah. So if I had to transition here now quickly, and what sort of new emerging technologies, right, or systems, if any, are you looking to implement inside the business in the near future?
Yeah, great question. So again, AI is a really big thing, and if you're using Microsoft at all, you probably see they're pushing Copilot onto Windows just by default in the taskbar down there. So besides that Copilot that they actually have some other Copilots for business that they, is an extra fee, but we want to look at. So they have a Copilot from Microsoft 365, where if you look at the one that's on Windows right now, it's just a basic chat GPT type functionality. You ask it a question and it'll spit you out an answer, or it can create you pictures. But if the one that they're releasing from Microsoft 365 actually is going to work with the Office apps, so you could tell it, grab this from that email, open a Word document, put my logo in it, and save it off to our dynamic
Yes.
CRM application. So it's nice because not only will it be able to tell you stuff, it'll actually be able to perform actions on your behalf just by giving it a full text command. So we're really interested in that one. And then Copilot, they're going to make like 5 different versions of it. It's just Microsoft always, finds new ways to get more money. But they also are releasing one that I'm really excited for. It's called Copilot for Defender. And so Defender is what we use for vulnerability management, and it detects that if somebody breached our systems, or there's a new CVE out there, a 0-day ransomware attack or something. It notifies us about that. Well, they're actually releasing one that's going to have where it's going to have the AI behind it, so that instead of if this happens, do this, it's going to be able to think a little bit more and help figure out if somebody's infiltrating you better than it does now. So I'm really curious and excited to see how that's going to work. I don't think Microsoft's releasing that till a little bit later on in the year. So we haven't got a chance to play with it yet, but that's one of the biggest things that I think any company is looking at now is how can we incorporate AI? And from an IT perspective, I'm really looking at how can we use it to help us, from a security standpoint as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and for you sharing that information with us. I mean, yeah, it can be a tough question because there is so much evolving. Like you said, like Microsoft is always continuously going to bring in new systems, and I mean, ultimately, we also have our internal systems as well that helps and improves those fraudulent activities as well, right? So, I mean, there will always be opportunity to improve it, and the more we improve it, the more risk adds into it as well, because they just get cleverer as we get cleverer, if that's even a word. I feel like that's a word. The smarter they get smarter, then ultimately, everyone does as well. So, but I want to just say thank you so so much, Jason, for your time today, and ultimately, it was lovely to get some insights into you and your role within the company, and also some insights into the organization. So I think my next question would ultimately be to ask you, how can someone make contact with you? If you want to give us possibly an email address, or what's the best way that someone can reach you?
Absolutely. And thanks for having me today. It was really nice meeting you, Kylie. I
Awesome.
really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. So the best way you could reach me, I mean, LinkedIn's probably one of the best if anybody's on LinkedIn. I'm ready easily to find me on there. And if you just want to email me directly, you can just email me at jason.saley, Saly, at ncdmm.org.
Great stuff. Thank you so, so much again, Jason. And guys, we really appreciate his time. And if you could please go like, share, and subscribe, we'll put all the details down below. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day further, Jason. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kylie. You too. Appreciate it. Bye bye.